She took the money, looked the cowboy she loved in the eyes, and walked away without a single word. To everyone watching, she had sold her heart for a handful of coins. The cowboy swore he would never forgive her. But what no one knew was that her betrayal was hiding a secret so heartbreaking that, when the truth finally came out, it changed both their lives forever. The first time the cowboy saw the Apache woman, she was kneeling beside a frightened young boy at the edge of a narrow creek. The boy's arm was badly injured, and every sound from the nearby trail made them both tense with fear. Travelers often avoided this part of the land, believing it was too dangerous, but the cowboy saw only two people in need. He slowly dismounted from his horse and raised both hands to show he meant no harm. Without speaking, he offered clean water and a small cloth from his saddlebag. The woman studied him carefully. Years of hardship had taught her not to trust strangers, yet there was no hatred in his eyes. The cowboy gently cleaned the boy's wound and wrapped it with the cloth. Before leaving, he placed a small sack of dried food on a nearby rock and rode away without asking for anything in return. Several days later, the Apache woman quietly returned to the creek, hoping to thank the man who had shown unexpected kindness. The cowboy was there repairing a broken fence along his ranch. Their conversation was short, but it carried a warmth neither of them expected. As weeks turned into months, they met whenever they could beside the peaceful creek where they had first crossed paths. They spoke about their families, their hopes, and the peaceful future they both wished could exist. The cowboy admired her courage and quiet wisdom, while she found comfort in his honesty and gentle heart. Their growing bond remained a secret. Many settlers believed no cowboy should ever trust an Apache woman, while members of her own community feared that loving an outsider would only bring more sorrow. Even so, neither could ignore what was growing between them. Far away, a wealthy cattle owner had begun buying every piece of land surrounding the valley. He cared little for the people who already lived there. When he learned about the secret meetings between the cowboy and the Apache woman, he smiled with cold satisfaction. He believed love could become the perfect weapon. Soon, he would force the woman to make a choice that would break two hearts and change every life around them forever. The wealthy cattle owner sent word for the Apache woman to meet him at an old trading post just before sunset. She arrived with quiet determination, knowing that refusing his invitation could place her family in danger. The man wasted no time. He placed a heavy leather bag filled with silver coins on the table and spoke in a calm voice that carried a hidden threat. If you leave the cowboy and never return to him, this money is yours. If you refuse, the families living in the valley will lose everything. The woman felt her heart sink. She knew the powerful rancher had enough influence to make good on his warning. She looked at the bag of coins, not with greed, but with fear for the people she loved. The following morning, the exchange took place in front of merchants, travelers, and ranch hands. The cattle owner handed her the money while everyone watched. Whispers spread through the crowd within moments. The cowboy arrived just in time to witness what appeared to be a painful betrayal. He stared at the woman in disbelief, unable to understand why she would accept the payment. His voice trembled as he asked, "Was our love worth so little?" Tears filled her eyes, but she forced herself to remain strong. "You must forget me," she said softly. Without another word, she turned away and walked toward the distant hills, carrying the heavy bag that now felt far heavier than silver. The cowboy stood frozen, his heart shattered. Around him, people shook their heads and spoke of broken promises and selfish choices. No one questioned the story they believed they had just witnessed. Only the Apache woman knew the truth. Every coin in that bag was meant to protect families who had no other hope, even if saving them meant losing the only man she had ever truly loved. Many months passed, and the seasons slowly changed. The cowboy buried himself in work, hoping long days on the ranch would quiet the pain that never seemed to leave. Yet every sunrise reminded him of the peaceful creek where he had first met the Apache woman. Every evening brought memories he could not escape. One quiet afternoon, an elderly Apache man arrived at the ranch. His hair was silver, and his face carried the wisdom of many difficult years. He stepped down from his horse and held out a small woven pouch. "The woman asked me to give this to you if she could not return," he said. Inside the pouch was a folded letter and a simple necklace the cowboy recognized at once. His hands trembled as he unfolded the paper. She wrote that the money had never been for herself. The wealthy cattle owner had threatened to force Apache families from their homes unless she accepted his offer and disappeared from the cowboy's life. She believed he would risk everything to protect her if he knew the truth, and she could not bear the thought of losing him as well. She ended the letter with words that brought tears to his eyes. "I never stopped loving you. If you hate me, at least you will live." The elderly man quietly explained that after leaving, she had guided several families to a distant valley where they could live in peace. No one had seen her for many weeks, and even he did not know where she was now. The cowboy folded the letter against his heart. Shame replaced the anger he had carried for so long. He realized he had judged the woman he loved without knowing the sacrifice she had made. Before the sun disappeared behind the mountains, he saddled his horse and rode into the open frontier, determined to find her, no matter how long the journey would take. The cowboy followed every clue he could find. He rode across wide grasslands, crossed shallow rivers, and climbed rocky trails that few travelers ever used. At every small settlement he asked the same question: "Have you seen an Apache woman traveling with families?" Most people simply shook their heads. A few remembered seeing a group moving toward the distant mountains, but no one could tell him where they had gone. Several days later, as the evening sun painted the valley in soft golden light, the cowboy noticed something hanging from the branch of an old cottonwood tree. He stepped closer and felt his heart race. It was the small woven necklace he had given her on the day they promised never to forget each other. Believing she had left it as a sign, he followed a narrow trail that disappeared between the hills. After hours of careful riding, the path opened into a hidden valley untouched by fear and conflict. Small homes stood beside a clear stream. Children laughed as they played near the water while elders prepared food over simple cooking fires. The place was quiet and peaceful, far from the troubles that had once surrounded them. Then he saw her. The Apache woman was helping an elderly woman carry a basket of fresh vegetables. She looked thinner than he remembered, and months of hardship had left gentle lines of exhaustion on her face. When she turned and saw the cowboy standing across the stream, the basket slipped from her hands. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, the cowboy stepped forward. "I know the truth," he said quietly. "I know why you left." Tears filled her eyes as she lowered her head. "I wanted you to hate me," she whispered. "I believed it was the only way to keep you safe." The cowboy gently took her hands. "I should have trusted your heart instead of believing what others wanted me to see. I am sorry." She looked into his eyes and saw only honesty and forgiveness. As the sun slowly disappeared behind the mountains, the people of the valley watched in silence while two hearts, separated by sacrifice and misunderstanding, finally found their way back to each other. The days that followed marked the beginning of a new chapter for both the cowboy and the Apache woman. Instead of returning to the life they had once imagined, they chose to build something even greater together. Side by side, they helped the families in the hidden valley plant crops, repair homes, and create a future filled with hope instead of fear. News of the truth slowly spread across the frontier. The same people who had once believed the Apache woman had betrayed the cowboy began to understand the remarkable sacrifice she had made. She had accepted the money not for wealth, but to protect innocent families from losing everything they had. The wealthy cattle owner could no longer hide behind lies. As more people learned what had truly happened, his reputation faded, while the courage of the Apache woman became a story told around campfires and family tables. One evening, the cowboy and the woman returned to the quiet creek where they had first met. The water flowed as gently as it had on that unforgettable day. They stood together in silence, remembering how close they had come to losing each other forever. The cowboy smiled and took her hand. "I almost believed that love could be bought," he said softly. "Now I know that real love is proven by sacrifice." She smiled through tears and rested her head against his shoulder. Together they watched the sun disappear beyond the hills, grateful that truth had arrived before it was too late. From that day forward, their story became a reminder that the strongest hearts are often misunderstood, and that genuine love is not measured by what people see on the surface, but by the quiet sacrifices made when no one else knows the truth. Sometimes the greatest acts of love look like betrayal until the whole story is revealed. The Apache woman chose to carry the burden of being misunderstood so that others could live in peace, and the cowboy learned that trust is strongest when it reaches beyond appearances. Their journey reminds us that kindness, sacrifice, and forgiveness can overcome even the deepest wounds, and that the truth has a way of finding its light, no matter how long it remains hidden. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more original Old West stories filled with courage, compassion, and unforgettable moments. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new adventure. We would also love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments. Do you believe true love can survive even the greatest misunderstanding? Thank you for watching, and we look forward to sharing another unforgettable frontier story with you soon.